Welcome back to Burning the Ships Podcast Solo Show, the show where we go all in on business, health, family, and life without looking back. These solo episodes are designed to give you tactical strategies you can apply right away, followed by a mindset principle to help you anchor those strategies and execute with confidence. From time to time, I'll also bring in experts to dive deeper into specific areas so you're getting actionable tools and perspectives from all angles. This show is also brought to you by 608B Capital. At 608B, we provide short-term real estate loans for investors who need speed, certainty, and flexibility to scale their business. Whether it's a fix and flip or a buy and hold, our team understands the borrower side because we've been there and continue to be there ourselves. To learn more, visit 608bcapital.com. Now let's dive in. Welcome to Burning the Ships Podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I am flying solo. Y'all are used to me having a guest on here where I set them up with a bunch of questions to talk about whatever their expertise is, and that's all over the place. It could be real estate folks, it could be just entrepreneurs in general, it could be mindset coaches, athletes, things like that. I've had a wide variety of guests on here, and I'll continue to do so. But this week, I wanted to sit down because we're no longer doing, for anybody that has been paying attention or has been following along, you may have noticed for really the first we're almost at 2 years now. I think actually we are right at 2 years of doing this podcast. We started in December of 23. And it is almost December. This will be coming out December of 25. So we're actually 2 years into this. But for the most of those 2 years, up until about a month ago, I was doing 2 episodes a week. One would be these Sunday episodes where it was me interviewing a guest. Those are my favorite episodes, right? I get to some of the guests I don't know until I sit down and do the episode and the recording. A lot of them I do know. And I just get to kind of dig deeper into their story and whatever they want to share. So, but about a month ago, we have just been incredibly busy in my main business. So this podcast is kind of a supplement or thing I do on the side from our main business. The podcast doesn't earn us any money or anything like that, directly, but the business, 608B Capital, our lending company and our real estate company and stuff like that, we've had incredible growth this year. All that is a great thing, but I've had to allocate a lot more energy and focus into that than I could for this podcast. So with that, I had to cut a few things out, and one of those are these solo Thursday episodes I was doing for so long. I'm not saying they're completely cut out. I may sprinkle them in from time to time moving forward. And even as we get into 2026 and our business stabilizes a little bit, and I have a little more bandwidth to put into doing these solo episodes, I may start them every week again. But for now, it's going to be every Sunday. Excuse me, mostly the interviews and occasionally me popping in for a random topic that I want to discuss. So today, it's me, solo. And the topic I'm going to talk about is one very specific. I'm going to share it from a very specific perspective of our business, right? 608B Capital. And I'll get into what our business is here in a second for those that may or may not know, like the details of our business. I'll get into that so you kind of understand where I'm going with it. But before I get into that, like I do every episode, and I caught myself almost forgetting on this one, but I'm going to turn it over to my man, JJ, for JJ's Joke of the Week. Take it away, JJ.
What do you get when you cross a math teacher with a clock? Times tables.
All right. Another one. JJ keeps them coming week after week, and he loves hearing them, doing them, all those good things. So we'll keep him. Hopefully y'all enjoy that. It's certainly the only part of a podcast he'll listen to. I don't ever go back and listen. Very few of these podcast episodes do I go back and listen to them because I'm the one doing them. So I actually had the conversation, so I don't need to go back and listen. But he makes me every episode play the beginning so he can hear his joke of the week. So that's always a fun thing for us. But back to raising capital. So I think I'll set the table for this episode by explaining, because we have a lot of folks, and recently we've picked up a lot more listeners, downloads, and stuff like that to the podcast. So folks may have joined us in the last couple months that don't really know what I do and what my main business is. Right? It's definitely not this podcast, right? That's something I do that's fun, provides value to folks, and it kind of helps us with some networking and things like that. But what my actual business um, is in real estate, right? So my business partner, Bill Phillips, and I, who um, many of you know or have seen, Bill kind of stays behind the scenes a little bit more, but I'm hoping to get him in here in the next week or two to do kind of a recap of our business for 2025, and then, talk about our goals and vision moving forward into the next year and the years to come. But Bill and I started 608B Capital LLC about 8 years ago. And it was just a business that we were buying and holding real estate in, right? So we were buying a lot of single family houses, fixing them up, putting renters in them, refinancing, and just repeating that process over and over and over. So we did that for a number of years. And when we created that LLC, we had to come up with a name for it, and 608B was our apartment number at Radford University. So it was a common thing we had. It flowed easily. It didn't mean anything to anybody but us. And we put the capital behind it just to kind of make it sound a little more official. So 608B Capital LLC. Well, fast forward to when we were fortunate enough to be able to walk away from our W-2 careers, which was 3 years ago. So for me, I left at the end of 2022. Here we are at the end of 2025. It doesn't feel like 3 years, but it was 3 years ago. But as we walked away, we stepped into early 2023. We got into lending, right? We were already lending our own capital a little bit privately, like through our self-directed retirement accounts and stuff like that. But we were doing that enough to see that there's a business there. And we had connected with Kelly Garrett, who's the CEO of Rehab Wallet out of Charleston, South Carolina. We connected with her through a networking group we were in. And long story short, after several long conversations with her, kind of analyzing the all the nuances of a lending business and the different ways you can get into lending at scale. And there's so many ways to jump into it, but we kind of landed on how we wanted to approach it. That evolved to us hiring Kelly Garrett as a consultant, and we started 608B Capital Funding, which is separate from 608B Capital LLC, is 608B Capital Funding LLC. Very confusing. We understand that, but that is what we did in early 2023, and it has been game on ever since. So that is our business. We are a short-term lending company. We operate as a debt fund through the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. We offer investors, accredited investors. Look that up if you don't know what that means. But we offer accredited investors fixed returns on their investment. We pool the investors' capital. So if we have, right now, we have couple dozen investors, all of them invested at various levels within the fund. We pool all that money. Basically, if you can picture a pot, a big bucket of money, and then we make short-term real estate loans out of that bucket of money. Those loans are primarily used for folks who are buying single-family houses. They're fixing those houses up, and they're doing one of two things at the end to pay us back. They're selling it, which at sale, close of that sale, pays us back, or they are refinancing it. So they put a renter in it, refinancing it, getting longer term debt on it, a longer mortgage that at that refinance into that mortgage pays us our short-term money back. So that's what we do. Take the money in from investors, pay them a fixed return, and then we lend that money out at a multiple above that. So we're making a spread, and that is the nuts and bolts of our business. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but that is what it is at a high level. So the topic of this podcast is going to be raising capital. Okay. So in order for us to have a business, we have to have capital to make the loans, right? So Bill and I, like I mentioned earlier, we have a pool of capital of our own that it's our money. We control it. It's a mix of self-directed money and personal cash that we have. And but that can only go but so far, right? If we build a business around our own capital, we can only make a handful of loans at a time, right? So that is very limited to where you can scale it currently, right? We can grow that capital and it compounds over time. But as we sit right now, we knew that we had to scale that if we wanted to make this a business. And the only way to do that is to increase our capital. So our capital, there's several ways to do that. You can do lines of credit. You can borrow money to then lend it out at a spread, kind of arbitrage type deal. But we chose the option of starting a fund, an investment fund for investors to give them returns passively, and then we take that and make the loans. So we got to raise the money, and that's where we started all the way back to, we took in our first investor in July of 2023. We made our first loan in July of 2023. So that was 2.5 years ago, a little less than 2.5 years ago. So that, once we launched and it was game on, the only way we grow is raising capital. So that is like, we kind of identified what our roles were going to be going into this business early on. Not kind of, we definitely knew what our lanes were going to be. Bill's lane was going to be operations, right? Once the capital is raised, or as it's being raised, we got to make loans with that money, right? So he's got to communicate with borrowers, underwrite deals, find good loans, safe loans, things like that, and then service those loans moving forward, because every loan typically is going to come with some rehab, some renovation to a home. So we pay that money out in draws. So he's got to manage all that. Well, he doesn't have a job to do if I don't do my job, which my job was to raise the capital. And I'm going to talk about kind of the way I approached it, some lessons learned, some lessons I'm still learning, and then some good things that I did, that we did along the way, that has allowed us to get to where we're at now. And I'll go ahead and, like, we started with zero capital in July of 2023. As I record this, we are right at $20 million in capital. So less than 2.5 years, we'll call it 28 months roughly. We were able to raise about $20 million in capital, and that number could be a lot higher. We hit the brakes for about 4 months this year because we had such a big rush of capital come in. We had to make sure we stabilized our loan demand at that new amount of capital that we had to lend out, right? So the worst thing you can do in this type of business is just open the floodgate to capital and not have a place to lend it out to, because then you're paying a return to investors and you're not making any type of return on that capital. So we had to be very calculated with that. But all of that said, I'm confident if we had just been full bore, never hitting the brakes on capital raise, I'm pretty confident we could be knocking on the door of 30 million in capital right now. And I think we will, as we decide to get to that point. But right now, we're at 20 million and kind of steadying the ship at that level, and then going to incrementally grow it from here. So how did we do it? It's what I'm going to share is probably, it's not going to be conventional in the sense, like, you'll hear a lot of, if you're on any social media and you are in the real estate space, you're going to hear a lot of gurus talking about, the psychology of sales and raising capital and all these different tactics to use and way to get people in your pipeline. I'm not going to talk about any of that, because that's not, it never was. I have a career in sales. Since I started my career in insurance at 23 years old, I spent 17 years selling, right? Selling a product, the various insurance products that evolved to me managing people who sold. So I had a team under me. So that was more helping them with strategy and sales training and motivation and things like that. But all I've known, I've grown up in my career in sales. Um, Everything I've done is unconventional. And it's because I do things, and I'm not, anything I say is not to knock anybody else doing it a different way. It just didn't work for me. And the conventional sales tactics, right? And by conventional, I mean, you don't have to look very far to get courses and different steps and strategies you got to use in sales to improve sales, right? And most of those are psychology based, right? Trying to figure out what's going to make this person more likely to buy your product, right? I never viewed it that way. I always viewed it as, it's pretty simple. Do I trust and believe in the product that I'm responsible for selling? And that product could be an insurance product, it could be a vacuum cleaner, it could be a car, or in this case right now, it's an investment opportunity. Do I believe in it? With like wholeheartedly, what I am pitching about this particular product, do I believe in it? And do I believe in it so much that I'm passionate about it? And not like, I was never passionate about a auto insurance policy or a home insurance policy. I'm never passionate about it. I was passionate about the idea that I had, I could meet with a family and talk to them about these products, home, auto, life, commercial, whatever it is. And I was passionate in the fact that I could help them review what they had, review what they needed, and I had the expertise and the knowledge to provide them with something that would solve problems they had, fill holes they had, maybe save them money in some cases. Now, what I have to sell is, again, a business, a vision, an idea, and an investment opportunity. And if I didn't believe in it wholeheartedly, then I can't be genuine in selling this idea, right? So it starts there with me believing in the product. I, I've bought a lot of vehicles over my years. We're, Katie and I'm recording this the Friday after Thanksgiving. We always do the weekend after Thanksgiving, so we're leaving tomorrow morning for a couple days to go shopping. We do all of our Christmas shopping. We go up to the short pump area of Richmond, and we'll spend several hours tomorrow just going around Christmas shopping for the kids and the family and stuff like that. Well, one thing we need to buy this time around is we've had our mattress that we're currently on, I don't know, 8 years probably, and it's starting to sag a little bit. It's time for a new mattress. So we're going to buy a nice, like a luxury, real nice mattress. So that's what we're in the market for. Tomorrow, there's a lot of sales going on right now. We're going to go into stores that are going to be trying to sell us a mattress. And I'm going to be encountering salespeople who I know are not passionate about what they're selling. They're there to try to upsell me everything they can. They have no genuine passion about it, most of them. They're just trying to get as big of a commission check as they can and move on and go home to their family. And I'm okay with that. I can't sell that way, right? I could never, I've tried selling in that. I've sold, for a very short period of time, I sold copiers and like printers for a company. I'm not going to name the company, but they're one of the big 3 companies that sell these products commercially. I hated it because I had no passion about it. I was good at it. I was real good at it, but I hated it. Because I was going in there having to put on this fake version of myself that I was very interested in solving all their problems with this copy machine, fax machine thing that I had to sell them. I had no passion about it. So that fizzled out very fast and I didn't last very long in that environment. So for me, number one is I got to believe in what I'm selling. It's not that I didn't believe in those copy machines. I just didn't care about them. I didn't care. I knew that person I was trying to sell to could go to the next company and get something comparable, right? I didn't believe, I had no time. I didn't own the company. I didn't build it. There was no passion behind it. So for us to be successful with what we're selling now in 608B, which is an investment product that is tied to a business model that we created. We didn't create it. We started our own business around this model. And so we spent, I told you we didn't take our first investment in until July. We officially launched our business in March. So March, April, May, June, 4 months we spent doing no revenue, no income coming into this business. And we spent those 4 months really honing in on our systems and processes. All right, butchering that word. So yeah, processes. We'll go with that. I don't even know how to spell that, but I can't spell most things. Anyway, I digress. We spent 4 months really trying to understand this business, understand how to mitigate risk, understand everything about the operations of what we were diving into, and learning it, educating ourselves, and really doing a crash course in all things this business. Why did we need to do that? We could have taken money in right away. We had people ready to invest with us just because it was us, right out of the gate, and we chose not to because I was the one responsible for bringing in investor capital, and I was not going to bring in a single penny until I was confident in what we were going to operate and how we were going to operate it. So I had to really make sure that box was checked before I go to these people that wanted to put money with us and confidently say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're protecting your money, and this is how we're going to protect it moving forward for years and years to come. So once I was confident in that, after 4 months of really dialing it in, again, working with our consultant, Kelly, and all of that, I was ready to go. So then I had something to sell that I was passionate about. So the next step, I had to build the passion. That was step one for me. Build the passion, build the belief in what I actually had to pitch to somebody. So once I did that, that gave me the confidence and that's all I need. Once I have confidence in something, I don't mind talking about it to anybody. I have no anxiety around any of that. What I didn't expect is, like I mentioned earlier, is I had a precedent set in my career of success with selling a product, right? Not necessarily a tangible product. Like insurance is not something you can touch, see, or feel, but a product nonetheless. It was kind of a commodity, right? In the sense that these people could go anywhere. They could go to a State Farm, they could go to Geico, Allstate, Nationwide, all these companies, and buy the same type of cup of coffee that I'm trying to sell them, right? So I spent years of selling people on the idea and the idea that I believed that you can go out and buy this anywhere, but you can trust that I'm going to have your best interest at heart. I'm going to set your policies up and sell you products that you need, not products that are going to make me more money, right? That's true. Like that, I genuinely believe that. So I was able to get very, very successful in selling those products, but it was a very instant gratification, if you will. I would sit down with somebody, I'd present them quotes. If they were in the ballpark of what they were paying now was just a matter of, hey, you want to work with me or do you want to work with Lizard, Geico, something like that. Easy sale, usually close that sale in one call, and now I have their business. A lot of times for my career, like once they started with me, the loyalty set in, they liked doing business with me, they trusted me, they told all their friends about me. It was an easy thing to sell because I was being genuine, I believed in it, I did all the right things, but it was just a commodity. So that was the sales precedent that was set for me. I go out and I pitch something, I usually close it pretty quick. What I did not expect with this is it was going to be a longer process because it's not a commodity. It's not something where these people have pretty much the same thing I have already, and I'm just trying to get them to switch to me. It's not that at all. This is something I'm trying to convince people to put their hard-earned money, their savings, their retirement accounts in a lot of cases, and give me a portion of it to put into our business, right? A business that most of these investors it's a niche business, right? A lot of them, or it's the first time they're hearing about it. So I'm having to really dive into the nuts and bolts of everything about it. So I've got to be an expert in all these things, and not just me believing I'm an expert, which I do, but convincing them that I have that belief and it's genuine. It's not something I'm just trying to do to get their money, right? So those sales don't happen overnight. That's not one phone call. That's not one lunch. That's not one meeting. It's a lot of those, and it's a lot of follow up, and it's a lot of proving the concept, and just a lot of staying in front of these people. So early on, it did not happen quickly, right? Nor did I want it to, because we needed to scale very responsibly. So fortunately, because it didn't happen quickly, like I would have taken all the money I could have gotten early on, but it didn't work out that way. So I was having some frustrations with that early on, but I knew that I had so much belief in what we had built and what we were continuing to build and how we were structured and protecting everybody's money and stuff like that. I had so much belief in it that I knew if I just kept this in front of people, and as people are like semi-interested, or they tell me they're interested, or they maybe not this year but next year, or I'm retiring in 2 years, keep in touch with me, that kind of thing. I was building a pipeline, right, of tens of dozens of hundreds to thousands of people over day after day, just reaching out, connecting, making new connections. The people that did slowly come in and trust me, I was connecting with their network, having them connect me with their network. It was just a spider web of connections. And that started to compound, right? And so, like, I started with having a belief in what I was actually selling. And then I stuck to me, this is sales 101. And I think most people get lost in it. It's just consistent activity. A lot of folks, and I saw this a lot in the insurance industry, and I also see it in the real estate industry, but a lot of folks have some success and they slow down, right? So, like, the pipeline, you think about, like, think about there's 8 billion people in this world, right? And I'm one business, right? So my potential prospects of investors are 8 billion people. Now, that's a big number. I realize most of those I'll never meet or have encounter in any way. Most of them are not accredited investors, all that. But just I want you to visualize what I'm talking about here. There's 8 billion people. So visualize there is a funnel, a pipe, that all those people are up there, they're upstream, and there's a pipe that all those people could come into, a pipeline that feeds them into my business, right? Well, if there's nobody in that pipeline, it's going to be a while before they get to my business, right? So my mindset, and I think about this, like I visualize this, all those people out there, if at any point, like there's different segments of the pipeline, and I'm using my hands a lot, so anybody's watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing to visualize this, but if you listen, just visualize that pipeline. There's different sections of that pipeline, right? You got your, let's call it 8 sections. There's 8 billion people out there, and I get a few of them in, and I just introduce what we're doing, right? Introduce myself. And now I've gotten in, and they're listening. Now they're in that first section of the pipeline, right? And then I have a meeting with them. Now they're listening a little bit more. They're in the second section. Well, if I move all that are in the first section to second section, what's the most logical thing I got to focus on? Not just those people. I got to get that first section refilled, right? And then second section, now I'm meeting with them. Now they want more literature on it, right? I want to send my literature and the returns and stuff like that. So now I'm moving them into the third section, right? If I don't move the people in the first section to the second, there's a gap in the pipeline. If I don't refill them in the first, move more people into the first, there's a gap in the pipeline. And this pipeline goes through all 8 sections until the point they're actually funding their investment with us, right? So where most people get it wrong is they'll get a big flood of people into section 1. They'll get all excited. And then a lot of those people will move to section 2. Oh, I'm excited. I'm getting them close. Then they'll move them to section 3. Section 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom, funded. And they look back up the pipeline, there's nobody there. So now they got to start the process. And that whole process might have taken a year to get all those people that were finally going to fund and invest to the end. So now they go back to the stop. There's 8 billion people up there back at the start. Got to get them in the pipeline. And they keep working this roller coaster of a bunch of people in the pipeline, working them through, boom, big wave of investment. Now I got to start over again. Bunch of people in the pipeline, work them through all the sections, big wave. So it's this huge financial, emotional, psychological, all these things roller coaster because they're not consistently keeping every section of that pipeline full. That is what I have done well. That is what Bill has done well. That is what we as a company have done well. Is I knew that, and fortunately I had the experience from my former sales career of knowing that it's all about a pipeline, right? Now, in that career, as I mentioned earlier, the precedent was there where that pipeline moved very quickly. People in, I'm closing them, moving them through. Now, life insurance was a little bit different. The pipeline was a little bit longer. I had a lot more follow-up and stuff, but same analogy. This pipeline now takes a long time, right? Very few people am I talking to the first time, and then the next conversation they're saying, okay, I'm ready to wire you $100,000. Doesn't happen much. It does happen. We had one recently that I was introduced by another investor. Couple texts later, I'm sitting in front of them. By the end of that meeting, $200,000 was wired 3 days later, right? That was a quick move through the pipeline. That's not normal. Normally it drags on for quite a bit. But what we have done well, and it was frustrating because early on, because I wanted people to come through this pipeline quicker, right? And it wasn't happening quick enough. But what I saw early on is, when I say I visualize this, I'm literally visualizing 8 billion people down upstream of me and a pipe coming into my business. And I'm seeing 8 different sections. That's how I think about it. I don't talk about this much, right? I just talk about like compounding activity, right? And keeping the funnel full and stuff like that, the pipeline full. But I don't talk about how I visualize it much. This is truly how I visualize it. And I think it's what's been I don't want to call it a secret to success, but it's what has allowed us to scale so quickly. Early on, I started putting people in section 1, right? A lot of people, like it was just daily reaching out. And then I'm just going to use like easy math numbers. Let's say I moved 500 people into section 1, right? Through just connecting with people, through my networks, whatever. And then I'm working those people, I'm following up with them, but there's 8 billion people out there. I'm still trying to get more people into section 1. So my days were not trying to get those in section 1 to section 2. It was a blend of trying to get them to section 2 and more people into section 1. And then as people got into section 2, now I've got, let's say, 200 into section 2, and I've still got 500 in section 1 because I've moved more to replace them. Now my day is getting people from section 2 to 3. And these sections it's a wide variety of things. It can mean like a phone call might be section 1, where we just talk about high level. And then a meeting might be section 2, where we talk a little bit deeper. 3 might be sending them paperwork. 4 might be a second meeting. 5 might be going through our paperwork in detail with them. 6, 7, 8, all the way to putting them in, the funds into our account. So every day, our focus is not on trying to close people to wire money. It's moving them through the sections and getting more people in the sections behind them. So at any given point, as this starts going, we get 6 months into it, a year into it, I had a pipeline full of every section, right? So as people started wiring money in, I'm constantly moving people to replace them in the next section or right on up the pipe, and new people coming in. So I have done that consistently since day 1, right? So our pipeline has been full since day 1. Right? And what happened is early on, a lot of these people got hung up in like section 7 or 8 because they liked it, they expressed interest, they were ready to make the move. But a lot of them, they didn't even have to say it. I knew because I'm an investor myself. I knew what they wanted to see. They wanted to see us prove the model, right? Because we were selling early on a vision. We hadn't done anything yet, right? We could talk about it till we were blue in the face. We could be passionate about it, have all the confidence. They could trust us. They could like us. They could know us, all these things, but we hadn't proven anything yet. So they need to see proof of concept. So a lot of folks for about a year and a half got hung in that section 6 and 7 for, if my kids could hear me right now, I said 6, 7. So I got to do that. 6, 7. Okay, JJ and Emma, y'all can laugh now. I'm distracted. For those that don't know, I'm very ADD, so I get distracted very easily. So let me bring this back in and get on track. They were getting hung up in section 6, 7, 8 and not finalizing things, right? So we were having a jam of folks. I'm moving them through, and that pipe was, picture like a pipe building up pressure. It's expanding and expanding with a lot of people. And that's where we got around January of this year, 2025. We had a lot of pressure there at the lower part of that pipe ready to explode into our fund. And it happened. And once it happened, it was boom. People moving out of those sections into our fund, one after the other, day after day. We were having wires come in left and right, and it hit us like a wave. And what was starting to happen is we were still funneling people, kind of backfilling, people coming in. I never lost sight of trying to connect with new people, so I'm bringing them in, planting seeds. And it got us to a point where around about July, so after about 6.5 months, 6, 7 months, we got to a point where we took all the capital in that we could stand, right? We did not have the loan demand to allocate all this money towards. We did, but we had to stop it because we knew we were reaching that peak, right? So now from, we'll say August, I think we took our last investor in like late July. So in August, we decided this year, I'm recording this in right at the beginning of December. We decided to put the brakes, right, on the capital raise, like actually bringing money into the fund, because we need to stabilize at this new level of growth, which we've done now. And now we've since opened it back up and starting to bring more investors in. But what I never stopped doing, I kind of shifted gears and started a new pipeline where I was trying to market and find places to put the money, borrowers and loans to fund. But I never stopped bringing those 8 billion people into section 1, moving them to section 2. And then what I started doing from August to really about a month ago, we decided to bring more capital in. We had a lot of pressure built right there at section 7 and 8. And as soon as, like a wait list essentially, as soon as we decided to bring in more capital, we set a number that we wanted to bring in. We let everybody know that was kind of hung up in that bottom section, and most of them came in. And within, literally a week of letting people know, we brought in another $2 million. And that was a mix of a bunch of different investors. And we're still bringing that in. And I think we're going to cap that here probably in the next couple of weeks. But my point is, it was ready to happen. And the reason we've been able to consistently and quickly raise the capital is because we, day after day, did the same things to get these people moving through the funnel, the pipeline. Okay. So that's how we did it. That at a high level is 2 things. And I'm going to get into kind of wrap things up with some more tactical things that, like, how I was filling the pipeline and how I continue to do so. But have something you're selling that you're tremendously passionate about. Like, you believe in it, right? Like, I believe that I'm going to give these investors an opportunity to earn more money on their money, more passive income than they would anywhere else, given this level of risk mitigation that we're offering. I'll go toe to toe with any investment out there with what we're offering. And it's definitely not risk-free. Everything has a risk component to it. But you compare things that are paying the same returns that we're paying, I'll go toe-to-toe with any investment out there. Bring it on. Now, there are potential to earn way more through other investments, but you increase your risk. But look at the risk mitigation that we're doing and the level of risk compared to the level of return that we're giving, I'll go toe to toe with any investment. So I'm that passionate about it. I believe in it that much. So that then allows me to go start filling that pipeline. And there has not been a week, not a single week since we started back all the way back to March of 2023 and took our first investor in July of that same year. There's not been a week that I did not move people into that stage one, section one of that pipeline. And there has not been a week that people didn't get moved into the next sections and next sections. It's always going on. Now that pipeline, we've had to replace it with a much bigger pipeline now because all that work is compounded and we just have a lot of folks in the pipeline that are interested, moving through the various sections. So how do we move people into the pipeline? Like, what are some of the day-to-day like things that I'm doing, the tactical things that I'm doing? Well, this just gets sales 101. It goes back to I'm passionate, right? So I have something I'm excited to tell people about. So how do I do it? Number one, I have just years of being around a lot of people and networking and stuff like that. I have a pretty big network of folks that I know, right? So I am constantly, whether it's through phone calls, email, text, social media, any other meeting with them, going to networking events, I'm constantly letting people know what I do, right? Now, let's say I meet somebody at a networking event, right? And I introduce 608B Capital. What do you do, Jason? Oh, I run 608B Capital Funding. We're a short-term lending fund. We offer investors passive returns. We take their capital, we lend it out to fix and flippers, people buying real estate. That's my business. Saying it that way, most people are instantly going to have a million questions. Oh, how does that work? What is that? What do you offer investors? Blah, blah, blah. So now that individual I just met and asked me that question gets moved into section one. I'm going to get their name. I'm going to get their phone number. I'm going to get their email address. We're going to stay in touch. They're in section one. Okay. So how am I filling the pipeline? I am having those conversations every day, nonstop, no matter where I'm at. It could be Christmas Day. If I run into somebody and we're having a conversation about what I do, that person's getting moved into section one of the pipeline, right? So it's not top of the mind all the time to be selling, but this is my business. This is my livelihood. Why would I not keep that top of mind to just share with the world what I do? I believe in it that much. And I want to show people proof of what I'm talking about. So the more people I can get into the pipeline and ultimately show them and get them telling their networks and get them into the pipeline, the more people I'm going to impact positively, impact our business positively, give Bill more money to operate, right? And build a team under him. And so, that's what we're doing. So it's simple. Every day, I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can and just at a very surface level, get them introduced to what we're doing, what my business is. I don't leave the house most days without, for those that are watching, this logo, 608B Capital. I have a bunch of different styles of these hats. One of them's on my head almost every day. I'm wearing this logo, this shirt almost every day. My license plate says 608B on it. Nobody knows what the hell that means, but a lot of people ask, right? So social media. It's annoying to me sometimes because it's my face popping up everywhere, but you can't open social media if you're in the Hampton Roads area or tied to real estate without seeing my mug up there talking about something to do with 608B Capital almost every day, right? So I'm keeping it in front of people. And what does that lead to? Like the social media stuff. Every day I'm getting messages from folks wanting to know more about what we do, right? Now, not all of them are accredited investors, but they could be borrowers. They could be people that know accredited investors. But every day I'm putting people into that pipeline just as a result of social media stuff. Every day I'm out and about. I'm at the gym. I am at networking events. I'm on the phone. I'm sending emails. I'm on Zoom calls. I'm connecting with people to put into the pipeline. That's sales 101, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I saw this in my former career and I see it now with folks that are struggling to consistently raise capital or whatever they're selling. They don't apply consistency to what they're doing to have success, right? Again, they fill the pipeline up. They work that group of people through the pipeline until they close them, have a big, exciting wave, and then they're resetting and starting over. You can't, there's no consistency there. You're having to start over every 6 months, a year, however long it takes for whatever you're selling to get people through that pipeline. We will never have that problem. We will never have that problem because I just have an understanding of the importance of that pipeline always being full. So I'm always going to have a pool, like a swimming pool, of people that have some type of exposure and interest in my business, right? That I can talk to further about the business. So then that's how you get people into the pipeline. Then follow-up becomes the ultimate lever to pull, right? Anybody that is in that pipeline right now knows, and anybody, if y'all are listening to this, y'all know that I am very regimented and consistent with my follow-up, right? And I track it. I track everything. I know the last time I talked to everybody in the pipeline, and I know my next time talking to them, right? And I'm going to keep following up. And I'm going to quote Amanda Compton, who, great friend of mine. She was a colleague at Farm Bureau when I worked there. I would say all around, she is excuse me for 1 minute, I'm going to keep talking, but I just got a notification on my laptop that it is about to die. So as I talk, I'm going to have to plug that in. But all around, Amanda Compton is the best salesperson that I have ever met, right? If you met her, and for those that are listening that know or have had the opportunity to get to know Amanda, you would not peg her as a salesperson, right? She's everything but that. She's very low key. She's not somebody that's going to go into a networking event and own the room or anything like that. But the one thing she is consistent. And she taught me how to keep that pipeline full. And I learned a lot just observing her, but as our friendship, developed within that career, she taught me how to keep that pipeline full. And the way she did it, and I'm gonna quote her, she said, I follow up everybody that she meets and shows any interest, so they're in her pipeline, she's gonna follow up with them for years, if it takes years, until they give her a hard no, right? And like I would say sometimes, until they just say F off, like, get out of my face, I'm not interested. So she has people in her pipeline. She's probably worked for Farm Bureau, 15 years. She has people that hit her pipeline 15 years ago that still have not bought anything from her, that she is still following up with them, and they have yet to tell her, absolutely not, get out of my face, stop contacting me. She physically has a notebook, a binder that she uses. I tried that. I'm not very consistent with that. Most of my stuff is digital, but she has if she follows up with somebody today, has a conversation, or they respond to a text or email, she's going to document it, make a note, and she's going to move that 6 months forward all the way to, June of 2026. She's going to open that notebook that day, follow up with that same person, follow up again. She's going to keep moving them forward until they've either bought from her, or they've told her to F off, right? A hard no, as she puts it. She doesn't say F off. So that's what I've applied here. Everybody gets a follow-up, right? And that follow-up sometimes might be, hey, like for 4 months, like I mentioned, we were not taking in capital. I followed up with everybody in my pipeline to let them know that. Like, hey guys, we've kind of put a pause on capital raise, and I'll tell them why. We intend to open it up like last part of the year, and I'll let you know when we do. So when we did, I followed up again with everybody, and sure enough, here comes some capital. And I continue to follow up. I continue to follow up with folks that have invested with us, right? They have networks. They, if they're happy with us, why not tap into their networks and have them share what they're happy about with their people? So follow up is key, because if you don't follow up, they're going to forget about you. So you get them in the pipeline, they get hung in like section 2 or 3, and they never hear from you again. Think they're going to invest with you? Maybe down the road they might remember you, but if you stay in front of them every few months, couple times a year, every quarter, and the follow-up kind of spreads out. So I'll follow up like on a weekly basis early on, then move that to monthly, then quarterly, and then maybe twice a year. But I'm going to follow up with everybody. And folks, that is it. That is all we have done consistently to get to where we are with this capital raise. 20 million in 2 years. 15 of it came in the last 20 million in 2.5 years. 3/4 of that has come in the last, I'll say, year. We'll call it a year. And that has happened because the pipeline stayed full, every section, pressure built, and all that happened because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about the opportunity I have to present to people. I talk about it nonstop. People believe that passion because it's real. They trust me. They get to know me. They get to like me. They get to know our brand and what we're all about. And they trickle into the pipeline. And I just keep them coming in the pipeline and moving section to section to the point where pressure builds. And then now it's kind of flowing at whatever pace we want to bring it in, we can bring it in. And that is how we have approached it, and it's worked for us. So it's not rocket science. I legitimately believe if you have something you're passionate about and you believe in, and it can't just be you believing in it. You got to be able to show like how this is going to work, right? I can sit in any room, I can be in front of 1,000 people and explain to them how our business works and how we mitigate. And every question people ask, I can field that question professionally and explain how it works and how we mitigate this risk and that risk and stuff like that. So it gives people confidence in what we're doing. So you got to actually believe in it. But once you do, and you can present it with confidence, anybody can do this. Think about the pipeline, feed them into the pipeline, follow up, continue to follow up, keep every section full. Don't take breaks. Don't take your eye off that pipeline, and things will compound. And to me, I don't feel like we've done anything crazy. I mean, it's happened faster than we thought, but we didn't do anything abnormal. We just did the things we knew that would work from a sales 101 standpoint that worked for us. They're unconventional in the sense I'm not a salesman. You won't hear me ever give a sales pitch where I sound like a salesman. I won't do that. I sound like who I am because that's who I am, right? So I don't have this great big old presentation. When I sit down with people, I'm not showing them PowerPoints and pamphlets and all this stuff. I'm just telling them what I know about what I do. If they like it, great. They're coming into the pipeline. If they don't and they ask to be removed from the pipeline, I'll remove them. So that's it in a nutshell. That's how we've raised $20 million in 2.5 years. And that's how we positioned ourselves to really have no limit to where we can go with this thing. So anybody that's interested in more about this, because we're going to be talking about it a lot more as we start coaching folks, moving forward into the future and mentoring folks. But if you're interested in learning more, I'm happy to talk further and get even more detailed and tactical about some strategy and stuff. But that, again, is how we've raised the capital we have and how we've gotten to where we have in the last few years. Not rocket science, nothing special, just doing what we know what works, and it has proven to be true. It has been frustrating at some points, but the pipeline has been our main thing. And I can picture it right now. I can picture my pipeline, see all the names and faces in it. I know what section they're in. I know what my next step is to get them down the funnel further. And that's all it is to it, folks. So with that, I'm going to wrap up another episode of Burning the Ships. I hope this has provided value for somebody out there. We'll be back next week with an interview. So somebody else can share their tactics and strategies around whatever their expertise is. But I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me today. I hope everyone is having a great end to their year and getting prepared for a fantastic Christmas holiday and 2026 moving forward. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Y'all have a great one. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships podcast. As always, I want to thank our sponsor, 608B Capital. We are a short-term lending fund, a debt fund, open for investors who are looking for a passive return. And also we offer products our main product to fix and flippers and buy and holders, folks that are doing things like that in real estate. Also want to remind you about our referral program. Check out our website for more information on that, and we're happy to talk to you further if you're interested. Again, thank you for joining us on Burning the Ships, and do me a favor and go out and try to find someone or some way that you can add value into the world today. Think through it, zoom out, and try to find where you can add value. I think it'll help wrap up your day, wrap up your week, whatever you're working on a positive note if you constantly think that way. Where can I add value? So with that, we thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships. Have a good one.